Hello and welcome to Flux Yoga. I'm so glad that you're here. So we're going to take the next 20 minutes to get into the hips. You'll need 2 yoga blocks today. I have one underneath my hips here to get started. So go ahead and find a supported seat. If you don't have a yoga block, a pillow, a blanket, something to elevate your hips slightly higher than your knees. We're going to start here with some breath work. Go ahead and allow the eyes to close. Hands can gently rest on the thighs. Allow your shoulders to drop and the arms to be heavy. Sit up tall to create more space in this container for the breath. Take a big inhale. Open the mouth, exhale. One more, inhale. Open the mouth, sigh it out. And seal the lips, breathe in and out through your nose. Noticing the gentle rise and fall of your belly as you're breathing in and out. Sending the signal to your nervous system that you're calm. You're not in fight or flight, but rather rest and digest. And slowly open up the eyes. Maintaining that deep, wide breath throughout the practice today. Take your left hand outside your right knee, rotate over the right shoulder, gazing to the back of your space. And come all the way through the center, gently switch sides. Right hand outside the left knee. You can tent up the left fingertips behind you. Press down to pull into the twist. Come back through the center. Separate your knees out wide to the edges of your yoga mat. You're going to keep that block beneath the hips. Start to walk the arms forward into child's pose. So here in child's pose, you may feel some stretching sensation in the outer hips. Targeting your piriformis, which runs through your glute max. It overlays your sciatic nerve. So if your piriformis is really tight, you might have some nerve pain in your hip, maybe even down one of your legs. So by stretching out the piriformis, you're releasing that pressure over the nerve. Okay, let's take 10 breaths here in child's pose. Start to walk the hands back up. Hands underneath your shoulders. Lift the chest. Lift your gaze up. Retract the shoulder blades together. Gentle back bend here. 3 breaths. Good. Release that pull. Shift forward onto all fours. So you can organize the knees under the hips. Just slide that block out of the way for now. So hands underneath your shoulders. Drop the belly. Lift your gaze for cow pose. Back into the back bend. On your exhale, round into cat pose. Puffing up the upper back. Tuck the tail under. And inhale for cow. Exhale for cat. Imagine these tilts of your pelvis initiating the bend of your spine. So starting at your tailbone, lifting up, allowing that to cascade up the back all the way to the crown of the head. Then as you tuck the tail, again, rolling up the spine all the way through the neck, the chin drops. Offloading some of that weight in the upper body, shifting it into the lower body. So less pressure on the shoulders. And find that space in between neutral pelvis, neutral spine. Tuck the toes under. Lift your hips up for downward facing dog. So here in your down dog, you can separate the feet a little bit wider than your hips. Hands a little bit wider than the shoulders. Push your weight back to the lower body. Untuck the tail. Lift the sits bones high. The head rests right in between your biceps. Start to straighten out your legs and bend your knees. So if you have really tight hamstrings and glutes, those hip extensors can put a lot of pressure on the lumbar spine, pulling it down. So by stretching out the hamstrings and your glutes, again, relieving that pressure, that tension. And step the feet together at the back of your mat. Float the right leg up for 3-legged dog. Bend your knee, open up the hip. Press down through the left heel to straighten out your left leg. Square the shoulders off. Take some circles through your right ankle. Reverse the direction. And extend your right leg straight for 3-legged dog. Exhale, pull that knee towards your nose. Step the foot all the way through. You can drop the back knee down. Grab both of your yoga blocks on the tallest setting, framing that front foot. You can untuck the back toes. Drop your hips down and in. So there's this element of pushing the hips into the stretch as well as pulling the hips back by activating your glutes. So if you squeeze your glute, you'll feel the hips drawing back. So the more you can release that grip of your glutes, the deeper you dive into the stretch. So you can control how deep you go. Find the sweet spot in the middle. Fingertips just resting on the blocks. You might feel some effort in this front thigh. It's good. One of your primary hip flexors, which lies in the front of your hip, is your psoas. So the psoas muscle works to draw the hips back. If you think about getting scared, if someone jumped out and scared you, you would pull the hips back, right? It's what we naturally do to protect our organs. So the psoas fires at the same time that adrenaline starts rushing through our body when we go into that fight or flight mode. It's an involuntary action of our nervous system. So if you encounter a lot of stress, your psoas is probably pretty tight. In our modern day, it's not necessarily a bear chasing us, but an email, a presentation, phone call, fight or flight, right? Little spurts throughout the day that can fire your psoas and cause a lot of tightness there. And shift the hips back, flex the right foot up towards your face for half split. Keep the back long as you hinge forward, stretching out your calf on the right leg, as well as up to the hamstrings, maybe even a little bit in your glutes here. Rebend your right knee. You can place the blocks down by your sides. Heel toe your right foot off to the left. We're gonna go into half pigeon here. So if your hips are really high up off the ground, I would recommend siding a blanket or a bolster underneath your hips. Or you can always prop up the right side with a block if there is a lot of pressure there, okay? If not, it can be right here. Your back kneecap is down on the mat. Try to level out the hips. So squaring them forward like headlights, rather than one jutting off to the side. If you feel like your hips are giving you some release here, you can start to walk the arms forward, offering up more weight from your upper body into your hips to deepen your stretch. So now, again, coming back to the piriformis, so running through your glute and the psoas in the front of the left hip. So half pigeon is a great hip opener. Let's take 5 more deep breaths here. the hands all the way back up. Just rock your weight off to the right hip. Bring your back left leg all the way around. Plant the sole of the left foot. Hug your knee in. Rotate to the left for a twist. Come all the way back through the center. Untangle the legs, cross at the ankles, and make your way back into downward facing dog. Just take a second to notice how your right side, your right leg feels compared to the left leg. Hopefully it feels a little looser. And set the feet together. Float the left leg up, bend your knee, open the hip. Drop your right heel down, circle through the left ankle. And reverse the direction of that circle. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, low lunge. You can always grab those blocks up to the tallest setting. And engaging through the glutes, start to drop into the hips. And our bodies are beautifully asymmetrical, especially the hips. So depending on your movement patterns, your habits, this side might feel different than the other. And it's not something to get too caught up in, but just simply notice. Press the hips back. Flex the left foot. Find your half split pose here. So if your hip extensors, your hamstrings and your glutes are really tight, tendency for you is going to be to round the back. Okay? So the antidote for that is to press the hips back, right? Press the hips back. Lengthen out through your spine. So there's a slight dragging of those blocks or your hands back, plugging in. And from that place, hinge forward at the hip line, as if you had door hinges on your hip bones. Now, a gentle drag back of your left heel. Good job. Release. You can set the blocks to the side. We're going to go into half pigeon here. So heel toe, the left foot off to the right. You can always use the blocks as a support for the forearms if you don't want to go quite as deep on this side, or even for the hands. So you're tight Left hip is going to draw you open. Try to close off the hips, square to the mat. Beautiful job. Walk your hands back up. Then open up the hips. Swing the back leg around to the front. Wrap the knee. Rotate to the right. Come all the way back through the center. Just crossing at the ankles. I hope that this time created more space in your hips and hopefully some reprieve for your back. Let's take one more breath together. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, anchor the hands to the heart. The yoga doesn't leave when you leave the mat.